Greetings. Let's talk for a minute. So, if you've been in the SCA for any period of time, and that can be as little as a week, you might get nudged, or you might hear, or maybe something on the inside is tickling you to possibly become involved in leadership, possibly become an officer or a deputy to an officer. And those of us who've been playing a while, we know all of the normal tells there. The most common by far is at every officer or at every populace meeting. If you can go 3 months without hearing this, I envy you. Some officer somewhere will say, and I'm looking for a deputy if anyone's interested. That's possibly the most common solicitation to get into leadership, is to become a deputy to an officer. Another possibility, very common, is someone will see you are good at something or enthusiastic about something, and they will say, have you considered becoming a deputy to this office or that office? And last but not least, sometimes they'll be internal. Sometimes you'll hear them talk about what they do, and you're like, oh, really? This sounds interesting. Tell me more. All three of those are possible, and they're very common, and they're perfectly natural. If you're in any one of those positions, what I want to do here is I want to give you some basic guidelines as to how to proceed so that you can be productive and still have fun, possibly, hopefully not burn yourself out. So first of all, whether you hear about someone wanting a deputy or someone says, have you considered, or your own internal interest are kind of poking at you, ask a lot of questions. Seriously, talk to the officer who is the focus of this interest or the solicitation. Talk to the seneschal. Talk to other officers, past officers in that office. With social media being what it is today, you could go to the whole kingdom and say, hey, I'd just like to ask, are there any past ministers of arts and sciences, or exchequers, or seneschals, or web ministers, or chroniclers, or any of them? I just kind of want to get a feel. How do each of you do your jobs? What's some takes on that? Where's some tools or just gather some information there. It doesn't commit you to anything. Have a talk with whoever the upline is for that office, because all local officers answer to someone higher up. That's society structure. In Onsteora, we have regional officers a lot of the time, and if not, there's a kingdom officer. That's given. And the kingdom officers answer to a society officer, so it's not like the ladder stops there. Yeah, if you have any questions, email the upline and say, hey, I'm just kind of curious. I'm getting some information. I've talked to these people. Do you have any literature, or do you have time for maybe a Skype call? I just want to kind of get a feel for this. You can absolutely ask. Now, they may say no. They may be busy. They may not be comfortable talking to someone they've never met. I mean, all those are possibilities. But you're absolutely within your rights to ask. Something else you can do, take some classes in it. We offer classes in officerships. I'm not joking. There's exchequers class. There's a seneschal's warranting class. There are classes. There's a whole bunch of classes in heraldry. If you go to any of the major heraldic events or arts and science events on Onsteora, especially with the online stuff now, you can get classes in specific aspects of heraldry or how to become a heraldic officer. And get a feel for that. There are classes in how to be a minister of arts and sciences. There are classes in how to be a minister of children. Now, I mentioned a couple of these are warranting classes. Does that mean you're warranted and you now have to become an officer? No, it doesn't. And you don't even have to take the warranting test in some cases. But it's information. You don't have to want to be an officer. You're not committing to be an officer to take these classes. I've taken the seneschal's class multiple times. I have no interest whatsoever in being seneschal. Have not, do not, will not. That's not my thing. But I've taken the warranting class several times. Why? Because the information is interesting to me and helps me work with the seneschals I have worked with in the past. But if you're interested in being seneschal, or you're interested in being Minister of Arts and Sciences, or a Minister of Children, or even helping out, if the class is available, absolutely take the class. And you may get asked, do you want to become an officer? You're allowed to say no. I'm here to get the information right now. I haven't made any decisions. Or I just want to be, I'm considering being a deputy and this looked like a good idea. You're even allowed to say, no, I don't want to be an officer at all. I'm just curious. Figured I'd sit in the class and listen in. That's absolutely all right. Trust me. Absolutely trust me. Get information. Ask if you could sit in. Now, if you're starting to get the bug and you're feeling more serious about this, ask if you can sit in on an officers meeting. Some officer meetings are open. Other groups, they are closed. That's up to the individual group. You will need to talk to the seneschal and the officers in question and ask, can I sit in? I just want to see how you guys kind of run things. It's always a good idea. Get all that information. Now, once you have all that, you will probably have as much information as you need to start making some early decisions. Do you want to be a deputy? Deputies are generally unofficial, and they last as long as is agreed upon. Now, officerships in Onsteor, at least, are 2-year terms. It's assumed if you take an officership, it's going to be 2 years unless specified otherwise. But deputyships, I know people who've been deputies for 5 or 6 years. I also know plenty of people who've been deputy for 6 months. So if you want to take on a deputy, talk with whoever you'd be deputying to and say, here's how long I'm comfortable deputying for, but I'd be interested in that. Ask what's expected of you. Ask what you need to do in that role. But get the information. Consider that. Maybe you want to apply to be an officer. It's okay. There are a couple of really good offices that are good for people in their first year in the SCA, especially if you get the right training early on. Now, there's a process for all of those. You need to find out what the official process is. You need to find out, do you have to do the warranting class? Do you have to do it before or after you apply? If you're going to be an officer in Onsteor, at least, you must be a paid member. So now, you don't have to be a paid member to be a deputy in my kingdom, but every kingdom is different. So please make sure to ask that question. Is a paid membership in the society required? You're going to want to sort that out early on. But if you want to be a deputy, ask about that. Ask what's required. Do you want to be an officer? Ask what's required. Take the classes. See what you can do. And you know what? There's one other thing on top of all this. Suppose you get all the way up. You decide you want to do this, you take the classes, you're all set. You even get the warrant. Your warrant, you have an official warrant from the kingdom officer saying you're warranted for this office, you can now do it. And suppose things change. Lose your job. Have a panic attack or a medical issue. And that's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing to be ashamed of there. Family situation changes, I knew one guy who was all set to become a Knights Marshal, and all of a sudden he found out his wife was pregnant. And he's like, no, dude, I got to watch out for my wife. It's not something I'm not really comfortable walking away from. That's okay. You're allowed to walk away. Even if you become a deputy, even if you become an officer, and you are suddenly convinced that you are not able to fulfill that role, you can absolutely walk away. This is a volunteer organization. No one has got a ball and chain on your ankle. There is a way to bow out, of course. You want to make sure you talk to your superiors. You want to talk to your contemporaries. You want to talk to the other officers and explain circumstances beyond my control. This is a situation. I apologize. And are there going to be people that, are a little disheartened by that? Yeah. We're human. We're allowed to be disappointed in a situation. But you're not obligated. Please don't feel, and I'm saying this for a specific reason, don't feel like any step in this process locks you into it. Even once you get the warrant signed, even once you've been named the financial officer or the seneschal or the Knights Marshal, things change, guys. Things change. And if things change to the point where the office in this volunteer organization is a detriment to you, where it's chewing you up, you can't do it, you're burned out, that's okay. It is okay to contact your upline and go, this isn't working out, I'm sorry, I need to step down. That's perfectly all right. And I'm not saying that to encourage people to step down. I'm saying that because I don't want anyone, especially a new member, looking at officership feeling like it's a 20-pound shackle on their ankle for the next 2 years, because it's not. As a former local and regional officer, both warranted, and deputy to kingdom officers on several occasions, I can assure you that when you turn around and you say, things have changed, I cannot do this job, I'm sorry, trust me, they'll respect that. They understand, and it's better than the alternative. Because if you keep pushing yourself to the point where you just kind of collapse, then that's even worse. No one wants that, which is why when someone has the wherewithal to say, hey, I have a limit, I'm about to reach it, I'm sorry, I need to take a break from this, believe me, they're okay with that. They're happy for you. I've been known to tell a few people, good deal, I'm glad you said something, let's go get some drinks. The Officer Corps is a community like any other, and they want to watch out for their own. And maybe that Corps is for you, maybe not. If it is, I encourage you to look more into it, as it's a fun group to hang with. And if it's not, if the officer path isn't for you, that's okay too, believe me. There's a lot of fun to be had without being an officer. So that's the summary. Is it a cut and dry situation? No, but it's a lot of fun, and I encourage you to look around, ask questions, be engaged, learn, and at the end of the day, do whatever you can that makes sure you're having fun. So, I look forward to seeing you all at the next event. Goodbye. God bless.